As a member of Gen Z, I can confidently say that we have a very unique relationship with boomers, especially baby boomers, since most of us are kids of baby boomers. And you know what? Boomers get on my nerves quite often, and that's what I'm going to be ranting about today. So welcome back to the iRant channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you guys comment below what else you want me to rant about. If I have some strong opinions on it, I'll probably make a video about it. We often view boomers as ignorant and stubborn at the same time, which those things do not go well together. A lot of boomers have a superiority complex that really gets under the nerves of the youth. They kind of feel this superiority because they made it through some pretty hard economic times because of the world wars and recessions, and America was booming, but definitely in a different way than it is now. A lot of them worked really hard to get to where they are today, but I feel like they don't always acknowledge that, you know, renting an apartment was like $150 back then. And you might be like, well, $150, that was worth more back then. Well, not proportionally, not relative to the income that they were making. If you look at the graph, you would expect the average income and the average rent to be a parallel incline. But that's not how it is, unfortunately. But again, in different ways, life is easier now than it was then. And hey, you know, I would be grumpy too if I gave birth to the millennials. I mean, that's bad. I feel bad for them. I already posted the video about me ranting about millennials. That is not this video. Boomers, that is the topic. I feel like they're easy to hate on because they're kind of like old, you know, they're not in the know, and yeah, they're a little old-fashioned, but I think the world now kind of needs some of that old-fashionedness. So I actually have a lot of respect for boomers. My parents are baby boomers. My father taught me a lot of core values growing up, and they kind of look different than the other kids. But now when I look at the world around me, I'm like, what on earth is going on? That's when I'm like, okay, I wish more people were taught the same things I were taught. At the same time, the superiority complex does kick in. I think that when they look at the younger generations and we're going through different things that they can't relate to, they kind of just always end up in just work harder, just work harder. And again, that's kind of true. A lot of younger generations lack a lot of work ethic, but at the same time, it's not always that simple. The rent situation that I was talking about earlier, that's something that the boomers are actually causing. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter how hard I work, this is just not affordable for me. Like, I'm sorry, Dad, I don't have that much money, I just don't. The boomers look down on us like, oh, those meddly kids, you know, oh, look at them with all these TVs and computers and iPhones. A lot of them are using the same exact thing. So I don't know what you're talking about. Also, when the newest stick and hoop game came out in your decade, you were using that, you know that. We just happen to be in the technology age, so of course we're gonna use them. And you know, then they'll be talking about health. Oh, you shouldn't be on those screens so much, you know? And again, everything they say have like a little bit of truth. I can't even lie. I like the boomers more than millennials, okay? You can probably tell the difference between this video and my millennial video. The boomers, honestly, are not as bad as the millennials. But anyway, they're gonna be like, oh, you shouldn't be on those screens so much, and oh, back in my day, I used to walk to school. You guys need to get outside. Meanwhile, they be looking like this on their couches. So it's like, what happened? What happened? A line that my father always said to me is that he had to walk uphill both ways to school, which obviously that's not how that works. I know. I'm a smart little cookie. But what he was trying to say is that life was much harder. And again, like I said before, that's partially true. You know, it was harder then in a lot of ways, and it's harder now in a lot of ways. But one of the things that really kind of ticks me off is when it comes to them adapting to nowadays. The lack of boomer adaptation. You know what I mean? When they're complaining about computers and stuff, and obviously they're not going through school anymore, and we are, and so they'll look in, they'll be like, wait, you can just find stuff online, you know, oh, that's so easy. And yeah, I mean, the internet helps a lot, but you have just as much internet access as us, so why don't you use the internet to help you with that, whatever else you're going through? You know what I mean? Like, I get that they look back at their past and they remember how hard it was, and then they look at ours and they're like, oh, this looks easy. It's like, no, everything's harder now because we have easier tools. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we have the internet, but we have to go on the internet and do projects through the internet now. And the funny thing about that is they can't even do that. Dude, boomers struggle logging into their Gmail. They do. They'll be like, dude, my Google isn't working. Yeah, because you're not connected to the internet. You gotta connect to the internet, you know? Well, I connected to it yesterday. Then why didn't you click that little box that says connect automatically? Like, is that really that hard? They look at a lot of technology that we have nowadays and they struggle with it just because they feel like old dogs can't learn new tricks. And part of that is true, right? I feel like me growing up with a certain amount of technology around me allows me to learn very quickly to a point where I'm better than even my older siblings at technology just because of the time that I was born throughout the technology age. But I'm telling you this right now, I'm going to reference my father again. He's not a tech guy, okay? If he could choose, he'd go back to the flip phone where he could feel the numbers and he could text like that. He has a smartphone now for many reasons, but if he could, he would go back to the flip phone just because he likes it better. But one time, I was like, Dad, you know what? We're gonna play Call of Duty together. So I pulled out my Xbox 360, I got him hooked up. He's holding this controller, he's like, whoa! What even is this? How do I hold this? You know, the learning curve was steep for him. It was steep. But by the end, a few months later, he's booting up the Xbox by himself. Okay? He's booting up the Xbox and he's playing Call of Duty without me. He doesn't even invite me. Sometimes I'll just walk into the living room and he's playing Call of Duty. And I'm like, hey, there we go. But anyway, so it is possible. Old dogs can learn new tricks. But anyway, there's a lot of hypocrisy that comes from boomers. But honestly, I don't even have that much to rant about. This is kind of an unpopular opinion, but I actually have a lot of respect for the boomers. I think that their ethics are very good. I think their traditions are very good. Their values, I actually agree with them. I feel like throughout maturity, you start realizing, wow, you know what? They were actually right. You know, some people do need to be punished. You know? Hey, you know what? Yeah. People are too soft nowadays. My dad was right. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want more rants like this, don't forget to drop a like. Helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you guys haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next one.